In the heart of each of the billions of cells that make up your body, a code resides, a master blueprint for perfect health, inexhaustible vitality, and constant regeneration. It is not a poetic ideal. It is your biological heritage, an instruction manual written in the language of life itself. This is the eternal code. But we have suffered a collective amnesia. The deafening noise of the modern world, chronic stress, artificial light, processed foods, disconnection from nature, has drowned out the whisper of our own biological intelligence. We have forgotten the language of our cells. We have lost the manual of our own body. And as a result, we have come to accept illness, fatigue, and premature aging as inevitable states, instead of seeing them for what they truly are, the consequences of a profound disconnection from our original blueprint. This audiobook is not about adding something new to your body. It is about remembering what you already know. It is not a collection of external remedies. It is a journey of internal reactivation. It is the key to awakening the dormant wisdom that lies in your DNA, in your mitochondria, in the water that flows through you. Together, we are going to unlearn the lies we have been told about the fragility of our body, and we are going to remember the eternal truths about its incredible resilience. We will explore the architecture of life, from the sacred geometry of our DNA to the coherent intelligence of our heart. And then we will give you the practical science-based protocols to reactivate that code. The memory of your perfection has not been lost. It is only waiting for the signal to awaken. That signal is your own consciousness. The reminder begins now. Chapter 1. The Master Blueprint, the Sacred Geometry of Your DNA. 20th century science gave us a view of DNA that, while revolutionary, was fundamentally mechanical. We were presented with the double helix molecule as a computer program, a biochemical script inherited from our parents that dictated with almost absolute authority the characteristics of our lives. Our eye color, our predisposition to certain diseases, even aspects of our personality, seemed to be set in stone in this genetic code. In this view, we were the products of a program we had not written and could not change. But a new wave of science, one that dares to build bridges between physics and metaphysics, is offering us a much deeper and radically more empowering vision. It is revealing that DNA is not a simple static computer program. It is a biological antenna, an exquisitely sensitive liquid crystal structure, capable not only of storing information, but also of receiving and transmitting it from and to the energy field that surrounds us. We are not simply the result of our code. We are the programmers. To understand how we can interact with this master blueprint, we must first appreciate the beauty and intelligence of its design. We must explore the sacred geometry of our own being. Sacred geometry, the architecture of life. The sages of ancient civilizations, from Egypt to Greece, from India to the Mesoamerican cultures, understood a fundamental truth that our modern science is just rediscovering. The universe was not created by chance. It was built following a set of geometric patterns, of harmonic proportions, that are the Creator's signature in the fabric of existence. These patterns, the spiral, the sphere, the flower of life, are not just beautiful shapes. They are the archetypes of creation, and the most fundamental, most omnipresent proportion of all is what is known as the golden ratio, or the number phi. This number, approximately 1.618, is found everywhere. We see it on the vastest scales and the smallest. In the cosmos, the arms of spiral galaxies unfold following the elegant curves of the golden spiral. The orbits of the planets in our solar system often have relationships with each other that approximate the golden ratio. In nature, we see it in the arrangement of the seeds in a sunflower head, in the scales of a pine cone in the shape of a nautilus shell. The branches of trees divide following this pattern to maximize their exposure to sunlight. The veins of a leaf and the veins of our own body branch following this same law of efficiency and harmony. In art and architecture, the great masters of the Renaissance, such as Leonardo da Vinci, used it to create their masterpieces. The Parthenon of Athens and the Great Pyramids of Giza are built with proportions that incorporate this sacred number, giving them a sense of balance and beauty that transcends time. The golden ratio is, in essence, the formula for beauty and functionality in the universe. It is the way life organizes itself to grow in the most efficient and harmonious way possible. And here we come to the most intimate and astonishing revelation. This same cosmic signature, this proportion that shapes galaxies and flowers, is the proportion that shapes your own DNA. The double helix molecule, when viewed from above, forms a decagon. And the relationship between the sides of that decagon and its radius is the golden ratio. The length and width of each complete cycle of the DNA spiral also adhere to this divine phi proportion. This is not a coincidence. It is the proof, inscribed in the heart of our own biology, that we are not separate from the cosmos. We are a fractal expression of it. We are built with the same geometric template as the stars. Our personal master blueprint is written with the same architectural language as the universal master blueprint. The DNA is a liquid crystal antenna. Understanding that our DNA is geometrically perfect is the first step. The next is to understand how it works. Cutting-edge science is beginning to explore the idea that the DNA double helix, due to its crystalline structure and aqueous environment, behaves like a liquid crystal. A liquid crystal, like the one in your phone screen, has a magical quality. It can store and transmit information incredibly efficiently. This suggests that our DNA is much more than a simple gene carrier. It is a biocomputer, a hard drive, with an almost infinite storage capacity. In fact, scientists have calculated that a single gram of DNA can store more information than trillions of CDs. This has led some researchers to ask, why would nature create such a massive storage system just to hold the blueprints for proteins? What else is being stored in that vast library? The answer may be found in the pioneering research of scientists like Dr. Peter Garyaev, who proposed the theory that DNA operates not only at a chemical level, but also at an energetic and vibrational level. His work, and that of others in the field of biophotonics, suggest that our cells emit a form of coherent light, almost like a laser called biophotons, and the source of this light seems to be the DNA itself. This changes everything. If our DNA can emit light, it means it can also receive light. If it can emit a vibration, it can also receive a vibration. In this view, DNA ceases to be a fixed program and becomes a tuning antenna, a flexible biological antenna that is in constant communication with the energy field that surrounds it. And the most powerful and influential energy field that surrounds our DNA is the field generated by our own consciousness, our thoughts, our beliefs, and above all, our emotions. Epigenetics, which we will explore later, has already shown that signals from the environment, such as nutrition and stress, can change the way our genes are read. Quantum biophysics suggests something even more radical, that the signals do not have to be physical. They can be energetic. The vibration of a feeling of love or fear could be as real a signal to our DNA as a molecule of vitamin C. This is the basis of the power of mind over matter. You're not trying to convince your body to heal. You are, through your consciousness, sending a new signal, a new frequency, a new emission of light to the antennas of your cells, giving them a new instruction on how they should behave. The eternal code is not just a text to be read. It is a song that can be retuned, and you are the musician. The role of consciousness. If our DNA is the radio antenna, who is the broadcaster? Who emits the signal that the antenna receives and translates into a biological reality? The answer is, at once, simple and overwhelming in its power. The broadcaster, the director of the genetic orchestra, is you. More precisely, your state of consciousness, or your dominant state of being, the sum of your habitual thoughts, beliefs, and emotions, generates a coherent or incoherent electromagnetic field that is the main signal that your billions of DNA antennas receive every instant. You don't have to try to communicate with your cells. You are already doing it. The question is not whether you are sending a signal, but what signal you are sending. The music of your emotions is the language that your genes understand perfectly. Contraction feelings such as fear, anger, and resentment generate a chaotic, incoherent electromagnetic field. This dissonant signal is interpreted by your cells as an alarm, a threat signal. In response, your DNA activates survival genes, programs for inflammation, fat storage, and immune system suppression. The body enters a state of war, sacrificing long-term regeneration for short-term survival. Expansion feelings such as love, gratitude, and compassion generate a harmonious and coherent electromagnetic field. This signal is interpreted by your cells as an instruction for safety and wholeness. In response, your DNA activates regeneration and longevity genes. The body enters repair mode, activating self-healing processes, strengthening the immune system, and optimizing energy production. You are the conductor of an orchestra of billions of cellular musicians. The music you choose to play with your heart determines whether the symphony of your body is one of disease and chaos or one of health and harmony. The Genetic Alchemist's Workshop, Integrated Practices. The initiate in the Eternal Code knows that he is not a victim of his genetic inheritance. He becomes a genetic alchemist, a conscious programmer of his own biology. His work is not forced or violent. It is subtle, energetic, and performed in the workshop of his own consciousness. The fundamental practice is that of cellular dialogue. The master knows that he can talk to his cells not with words, but with the language they understand, feeling, image, and vibration. One of the most potent practices is the love bath meditation. The initiate sits in silence, closes his eyes, and begins to deliberately generate a deep feeling of love and gratitude in the center of his chest. He doesn't just think it, he feels it. He remembers a moment of pure love, pets a cat, thinks of a loved one until he feels that expansive warmth in his heart. Once the emotion is strong and stable, he visualizes it as a liquid, golden or pink light, and with the power of his intention, he directs this healing light to flood every part of his body. He feels it descending through his head, relaxing his face, moving down his neck and shoulders. He imagines this loving light bathing his organs, his bones, his muscles. He imagines his billions of cells, each with its small DNA antenna, absorbing this frequency of love like a thirsty plant absorbs water. He speaks to them in the language of feeling, sending them the message, "You are safe, you are loved. I give you permission to remember your perfection. I give you permission to activate the eternal code of health." The alchemist also understands that his spoken words are vibrations that travel through the water of his body and inform his DNA. Therefore, he uses vibrational decrees. They are not simple affirmations. They are energetic commands. In his practice, the master not only repeats the phrase, he feels it. He pronounces the words in a low voice, feeling the resonance in his ribcage, in his throat. He becomes a human tuning fork, tuning himself to the frequency of health. A powerful decree for this practice could be, "The divine intelligence that created me flows through every cell of my being. My DNA receives and responds to the vibration of love and perfect health. Every cell in my body knows the master blueprint of vitality and activates it now. My body is a temple of light and I am its conscious guardian." And so it is. The initiate knows that his master blueprint, his DNA, is perfect. His only job is to remind his cells of it, clearing the interferences of stress and fear, and transmitting, with a loving consistency, the clear and coherent signal of his original state, perfect health. Your DNA is not a life sentence etched in stone. It is a musical instrument of infinite complexity, capable of playing any melody, from the most sickly to the most sublime. And you are the musician. You have forgotten the melody of perfect health, but the score, the eternal code, remains intact within you, in the silence of each of your cells. By learning to play the music of coherence, love, and gratitude, you remind your body of the song it was born to sing. Chapter 2. The Inner Ocean, Water as Liquid Consciousness. Now we must immerse ourselves in that medium, in the substance that constitutes more than 70% of your body and more than 99% of your molecules. The substance that is, at once, the most familiar and the most mysterious element on our planet. We must talk about water. We have been conditioned to see the water in our body as a simple solvent, a passive filler fluid that just transports nutrients and removes waste. It is the empty space between our important cells. This is one of the most reductionist and limiting views of mechanistic science. The new biology, the one that dares to look through a quantum and energetic lens, is revealing an astonishing truth. The water in your body is not a simple inert liquid. It is a crystalline and conscious communication network. It is, in essence, liquid consciousness. The fourth phase of water, the liquid crystal of life. Dr. Gerald Pollack, in his revolutionary work, has shown that water, especially when it comes into contact with hydrophilic, water-loving surfaces like our cell membranes, transforms. It ceases to be the chaotic H2O we know and organizes itself into a highly ordered structure, a kind of crystalline lattice which he called the fourth phase of water, or EZ water, for exclusion zone. This structured water behaves like a liquid crystal, and this is the key. A liquid crystal like the one in your computer screen has an astonishing ability to store, process, and transmit information. Your body is not a chaotic bag of water. It is a highly organized liquid crystal network. And this network is the true instant communication system of your biology, a system that operates at the speed of light, much faster than the slow chemical communication of hormones or the electrical transmission of nerves. But what kind of information does this inner ocean store and transmit? It stores and transmits the information of consciousness. Water as liquid memory. The pioneering work of Dr. Masaru Emoto, although controversial, offered us a poetic vision of this principle. His photographs of frozen water crystals showed that water exposed to high-vibration words, thoughts, and emotions, such as love and gratitude, formed crystals of astonishing geometric beauty and symmetry. Water exposed to low-frequency vibrations, such as hate, formed chaotic and deformed structures. What Emoto was visually showing is that water has memory. It has the ability to record the vibrational frequency of the consciousness to which it is exposed. Now apply this idea to your own body. Your body is, in essence, an ocean of conscious water. Every thought you have, every emotion you feel, every word you utter is not an abstract event. It is a vibration that is, at this very instant, imprinting its signature on the crystalline structure of the water in your cells. When you live in a chronic state of stress, fear, or self-criticism, you are programming the water in your body with a frequency of chaos and dissonance. You are creating deformed internal crystals, and this chaotic water transmits that signal of disorder to your cells and your DNA, instructing them, at a vibrational level, to manifest disease. When, on the contrary, you deliberately cultivate states of love, joy, and gratitude, you are programming the water in your body with a frequency of coherence and harmony. You are creating beautiful and symmetrical internal crystals, and this structured and coherent water becomes the perfect medium to transmit the signal of perfect health to your master blueprint, your DNA, activating the genes of regeneration and vitality. You are not healing yourself. You are healing the water that you are. And in healing the water heals you. The inner ocean and cellular communication. This network of structured water is the operating system of your biology. It is the internet through which your billions of cells communicate with each other instantly. Conventional medicine focuses on chemical communication, which is like sending a letter by postal mail. The new biology understands that the primary communication is vibrational, through water, and is like a fiber optic video call. When you generate a healing intention in your heart, a feeling of gratitude for your body, that frequency does not travel slowly through your nervous system. It propagates instantly through the liquid crystal network of your body, reaching each of your cells at the same time. Each cell hears the new song of coherence and, like a musician in an orchestra, begins to vibrate in sync with it. Healing, from this perspective, is not a slow process of mechanical repair. It is an instant process of vibrational retuning. It is the act of changing the music that is being played in the ocean of your being. This understanding gives us a new and powerful appreciation for the importance of hydration. Drinking pure water is not just a physiological necessity, it is an act of spiritual cleansing and reprogramming. When you drink water, you are not just replenishing your body's fluids. You are introducing a virgin substance, a blank hard drive, ready to be programmed with your new intentions of health and vitality. Drinking a glass of water with the conscious intention of, I am cleansing and purifying my system, is an incredibly potent healing ritual. The water is carrier of the master blueprint. Finally, we must understand the sacred relationship between water and DNA. Your DNA does not float in a void. It is immersed, it is bathed in this structured cellular water. The water acts as the conduit, as the medium that reads the information of the DNA master blueprint and transmits it to the rest of the cell. But this is a two-way street. The water not only reads the DNA, it also writes it. The frequency of consciousness, recorded in the water, is the signal that tells the DNA which parts of its vast library of information should be activated and expressed. In the previous chapter, we talked about DNA as an antenna. Now we can complete the metaphor. If the DNA is the antenna, the water is the transmission medium and the tuner. The quality and coherence of the water surrounding your DNA determines the clarity of the signal it can receive and transmit. A chaotic, watery environment, programmed by stress, is like a radio full of static. Communication between your consciousness and your genetic code becomes noisy, confused. The signal of perfect health is lost. A coherent, watery environment, programmed by love and gratitude, is like a high-fidelity fiber optic system. It allows clear, direct, and interference-free communication between your intention and your master blueprint, allowing the eternal code of youth and vitality to express itself fully. Your body is an ocean, and you are the climate. Your thoughts and your emotions are the sun, the wind, and the rain that determine whether the waters of your being are in a state of chaotic storm or crystalline calm. The Alchemical Workshop. The master knows that every thought, every word, and every emotion is a drop of ink that stains his inner ocean. Therefore, he becomes an artist of conscious imprinting. He uses simple but profound rituals to deliberately program the water of his being with the frequency of health and vitality. One of the most powerful rituals is the blessing of water. The initiate does not drink water automatically and distractedly. He recognizes each glass of water as an opportunity for healing. Before drinking, he holds the glass between his hands. He closes his eyes for an instant, and he projects, from his heart, a high vibration intention into the liquid. It is not an act of fantasy. It is an act of energy transfer. He can whisper a power word over the water: health, vitality, love. He can visualize a golden or violet light filling the water, infusing it with a healing energy. He can simply feel a deep gratitude for the water, thanking it for the gift of life and purification. He knows that he is not just hydrating his body. He is ingesting a sacrament, a liquid crystal that has been programmed with the exact frequency of his healing. And this informed water, upon entering his system, begins to transmit its message of coherence to the entire inner ocean. The second practice, emotional climate change. The master understands that his habitual emotional state is the climate that governs his inner ocean. A climate of stress and fear creates a stormy, chaotic sea. A climate of peace and love creates a serene, crystalline ocean. Therefore, his most important practice is to become the conscious regulator of his own climate. The most effective tool for this is heart coherence, as we have already explored. The initiate, several times a day, especially in moments of stress, pauses. He closes his eyes, and he brings his attention to the center of his chest, to the area of his heart. He begins to breathe slowly, rhythmically, and deeply, imagining that he is inhaling and exhaling through his heart. Then he deliberately evokes a feeling of genuine appreciation or gratitude. It can be for a person, for a pet, for a happy memory, or for the simple beauty of a moment. He doesn't just think about gratitude, he feels it. He feels the warmth, the expansion, the openness in his chest. He knows that he is not simply feeling good. He is performing an act of alchemy of immense power. He is transforming the electromagnetic signal of his heart from an incoherent pattern to a coherent one. And this coherent signal, like a powerful radio wave, propagates instantly through the water of his body, instructing every molecule to organize itself. He is transforming the chaotic water of his being into a high-fidelity liquid crystal, the perfect medium for transmitting the signal of perfect health to each of his cells. Your body is not a solid machine. It is an ocean of liquid consciousness. Every thought is a raindrop that falls on its surface. Every emotion is a tide that moves it, and you, through your consciousness and your heart, are the sun and the moon that govern the climate of your own being. By becoming the conscious guardian of the water that you are not only healing your body, you are aligning yourself with the very flow of life, becoming a clear and coherent vessel for the expression of universal intelligence. You have understood the master blueprint, the DNA, and the watery medium that transmits its music. Now we must explore the engines that power all this biological machinery, the source of vitality itself. In the next chapter, we will delve into the billions of suns that shine within each of your cells, the intelligence of the mitochondria. Chapter 3. The sun in your cells, the intelligence of mitochondria. The great plague of modern civilization is not a specific disease. It is a much more subtle and universal condition, chronic fatigue. We live in an epidemic of exhaustion. We wake up tired, get through the day fueled by stimulants like caffeine and sugar, and arrive at night too wired to sleep deeply, only to repeat the cycle the next day. We have come to accept this state of low vitality as normal. We believe that energy is something we get from the outside, something we consume. But this is a superficial view. True vitality is not something you consume, it is something you generate. And the generator is not in your cup of coffee, it is inside you. To find the source of unlimited energy, we must travel even deeper into the cell, beyond the nucleus where the DNA resides. We must enter the thousands of small and powerful engines that live in the cytoplasm of each of your cells. We must talk about mitochondria. If your DNA is the master blueprint of your biological house, mitochondria are the power plants that supply the energy to build, repair, and maintain that house. Without them, the most perfect blueprint is just useless paper. You have between 10 and 200 trillion of these tiny power plants in your body right now, each one working tirelessly to transform the air you breathe and the food you eat into the universal currency of cellular energy, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. But to call mitochondria simple power plants is to do them an injustice. They are much more than that. They are, in a very real sense, miniature suns. They are suns that shine in the inner universe of each of your cells, radiating the light and heat of life. The ancestral origin, the stars that live within us. The history of mitochondria is one of the most astonishing in all of biology. They are not originally yours. Billions of years ago, at the dawn of complex life, they were independent bacteria, free organisms that mastered the art of energy production through oxygen. In a decisive moment of evolution, these energetic bacteria entered into a symbiosis with larger primitive cells. The large cell offered protection and nutrients, and the bacterium in exchange offered its miraculous gift, incredibly efficient energy production. This sacred alliance was the origin of all complex life on Earth, including you. Every mitochondrion in your body is a direct descendant of those ancient bacteria. You carry within you a lineage of billions of years of energetic mastery. And what's even more fascinating, mitochondria have their own DNA, mitochondrial DNA, which is inherited exclusively from the mother. You carry in your cells an uninterrupted thread of vital energy that goes back to the first mother of humanity. Understanding this changes everything. Your mitochondria are not simple organelles. They are living, conscious and intelligent beings that live in symbiosis with you. They are not your slaves, they are your partners, and the quality of your relationship with them determines the quality of your vitality. Mitochondrial health is the foundation of life. When your mitochondria are healthy, abundant and efficient, your life is a reflection of that energy. Physically, you have radiant vitality. Your body functions optimally. You recover quickly from exercise and illness. Your metabolism is efficient. You feel a clean, sustained energy throughout the day. Mentally, your brain, which is the body's largest energy consumer, functions with crystalline clarity. Your memory is sharp. Your concentration is deep. You have the mental energy to face complex problems and learn new skills with ease. Emotionally, a healthy energy system promotes emotional resilience. You have the ability to navigate stress without being overwhelmed. Your mood is stable and positive. Conversely, when your mitochondria are damaged or dysfunctional, a condition known as mitochondrial dysfunction, the foundation of your health crumbles. This is the hidden origin of almost all chronic diseases and the aging process. Physically, you experience chronic fatigue, inflammation, a slow metabolism, poor recovery, and a greater susceptibility to diseases. Mentally, you suffer from brain fog, lack of concentration, memory loss, and difficulty learning. Emotionally, you are more prone to anxiety, depression, and feeling overwhelmed by stress. The state of your inner suns is literally the state of your life. The question then is, what puts out these suns, and what can we do to relight them? The energy killers, how we destroy our mitochondria. The modern world, with its unnatural lifestyle, is a minefield for our mitochondria. The inflammatory diet. Mitochondria are the furnaces where fuel is burned. If you give them low-quality fuel, they will not only produce less energy, but they will also generate a massive amount of toxic smoke. This smoke is free radicals, unstable molecules that damage the mitochondria themselves, cell membranes, and DNA. The two worst fuels are processed sugar and industrial vegetable oils, sunflower, soy, corn. They are highly inflammatory and generate immense oxidative stress. A diet based on them is like trying to run a Formula One engine on mud. Chronic darkness, lack of sunlight. We have forgotten that we are solar creatures. Sunlight, especially the morning and evening light, rich in red and infrared frequencies, is a fundamental nutrient for our mitochondria. Light interacts with molecules in our mitochondria, called cytochromes, helping them produce energy more efficiently and generate structured water inside the cell. By living 90% of our time indoors, under flickering artificial light that lacks these vital frequencies, we are literally starving our inner suns. Sedentary lifestyle. Your mitochondria respond to demand. If you don't demand energy from your body, it sees no need to maintain a dense, efficient mitochondrial network. A sedentary lifestyle is the clearest signal you can send to your biology to start the process of dismantling your power plants. The muscle that is not used atrophies. The mitochondria that are not used die. Chronic stress. Cortisol, the chronic stress hormone, is mitochondrial poison. It puts your cells in a constant state of emergency, forcing the mitochondria to work overtime in a crisis energy mode, which produces a massive amount of free radicals and damages their delicate machinery. The awakening of the inner fire, the 4 pillars of vitality. The good news is that your mitochondria have an amazing capacity for regeneration. By giving them the right signals, you can not only repair the existing ones, but also stimulate the creation of new and more efficient mitochondria, a process called mitochondrial biogenesis. You don't need complicated techniques. You need to return to the ancestral practices that are inscribed in our genetic code. The first pillar, clean fuel. You must feed your mitochondria with the foods they are designed for. This means a diet rich in healthy fats, avocados, olive oil, fatty fish, high-quality proteins, and a wide variety of colorful plants, which are full of polyphenols. Polyphenols are plant compounds that act as signalers for our mitochondria, activating longevity pathways and antioxidant protection. Resveratrol from grapes, curcumin from turmeric, catechins from green tea. They are like music for your inner suns. The second pillar, light as a nutrient. You must re-expose yourself to natural light. The sun salutation protocol we saw in the chapter on circadian rhythms not only synchronizes your master clock, it directly feeds your mitochondria. Morning sunlight is the breakfast for your cells. The third pillar, adaptive stress, hormesis. The secret to strengthening any biological system is not comfort, but intermittent controlled stress. This principle is called hormesis. A small controlled challenge forces your cells to become stronger and more resilient. The two most powerful forms of hormesis for your mitochondria are exercise and cold exposure. Exercise, as we saw, is an unmistakable signal of energy demand that stimulates the creation of new mitochondria. Brief cold exposure, like a cold shower, does the same, forcing your mitochondria to work harder to produce heat, which in the long run makes them more efficient. The fourth pillar, conscious breathing. Oxygen is the final ingredient in the combustion of energy, but most of us breathe shallowly and chaotically, especially when we are stressed. Practices of deep and rhythmic breathing ensure that your cells receive an optimal supply of oxygen, allowing for clean and efficient energy production, and reducing the toxic smoke of free radicals. The workshop of the inner fire integrated practices. The initiate in the eternal code understands that he is not a machine that is running out of battery. He is a sun whose flame has been weakened by neglect. His job is not to seek external sources of energy, but to stoke the fire of his own cellular core. The first practice, the cellular feast. The master of vitality eats with a conscious intention. He knows that every bite is an instruction he gives to his mitochondria. His practice is not a restrictive diet, but a feast of nourishing information. Choose clean fuel. The initiate eliminates or drastically reduces the energy killers. Processed sugar, which is like throwing sand in the engine. Industrial vegetable oils, sunflower, corn, soy, which cause immense inflammation, and ultra-processed foods which are devoid of the vital force his cells crave. Prioritize sacred fats. He understands that his brain and cell membranes are made of fat. Therefore, he incorporates healthy fats into his diet: avocados, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, nuts, and, above all, the omega-3 fatty acids found in fatty fish like salmon and sardines. These fats are the bricks for building flexible cell membranes and efficient mitochondria. Eat the rainbow. He knows that the vibrant colors of plants, leafy green vegetables, berries, spices like turmeric, are the source of polyphenols, the compounds that protect his mitochondria from oxidative stress and activate longevity pathways. His plate is not monotonous, it is a vibrant work of art. The second practice, the solar ritual. The master honors his ancestral connection to the sun. He understands that light is not just something you see, but something you eat. The photon breakfast. His day begins with the protocol we already know: exposure to morning sunlight. He goes outside in the first hour after waking up. He doesn't do it just to synchronize his circadian clock. He does it to feed his mitochondria. He feels the sun on his skin and in his eyes, and imagines how that light penetrates his cells, charging the batteries of his inner suns. The sunset reverence. In the same way, if possible, he takes a moment at sunset to expose himself to the red and infrared light of the setting sun, which has a particularly restorative and anti-inflammatory effect on the mitochondria. The third practice, the hormetic dance. The initiate knows that comfort is the enemy of vitality. He embraces controlled stress as his main ally to forge biological resilience. Movement as prayer. His exercise practice is not a punishment. It is a conversation with his mitochondria. Through strength training, he tells them, "I need you to be stronger." Through cardio, he tells them, "I need you to be more numerous and efficient." And his mitochondria, which are obedient, respond by multiplying and improving their function. The cold embrace. The master uses brief cold exposure as a powerful tool for mitochondrial biogenesis. He doesn't need high-tech cryotherapy. It can be as simple as ending his daily shower with 1 or 2 minutes of water, as cold as he can tolerate. At first it's uncomfortable, but he knows that this thermal shock is an ancestral signal that shouts to his cells, "Activate, produce heat, get stronger to survive." The fourth practice, breath as liquid fire. Finally, the master of energy masters the art of breathing. He knows that oxygen is the final element that ignites the flame in his mitochondrial furnaces. The coherence breath. Throughout the day, he practices slow, rhythmic, and deep breathing, inhaling through the nose for 5 seconds and exhaling through the nose for 5 seconds. This coherent breathing not only calms his nervous system, it also ensures an optimal and efficient oxygenation of his tissues, allowing his mitochondria to produce energy cleanly with a minimum of oxidative waste. The breath of fire. When he needs an energy boost, instead of resorting to a stimulant, he uses more intense breathing techniques, such as Wim Hof breathing, to flood his system with oxygen and consciously awaken the fire of his inner suns. Your body is not a machine that wears out over time. It is a dynamic garden, an ecosystem of billions of living beings. And you are the gardener. The quality of your energy, the vitality of your being, is not a gift of chance. It is the direct result of the quality of the environment you create for your mitochondria. By feeding them with the right fuel, by bathing them in natural light, by challenging them with hormetic stress, and by nurturing them with conscious breath, you stop being a victim of fatigue. You become the guardian of your own fire. You reclaim your birthright to unlimited energy and vitality. Chapter 4. The Ghost Switch, Epigenetics. For almost a century, We have lived under the shadow of an implacable dogma, genetic determinism. 20th century science presented us with a view of DNA as a fixed blueprint, an immutable script handed to us at birth that dictated, with almost absolute authority, the course of our biological lives. If you had the gene for a certain disease, it was believed that you were destined to suffer from it. If you didn't have the gene for a particular talent, it was assumed you could never achieve it. In this paradigm, we were the victims of our inheritance, prisoners of a biochemical lottery over which we had no control. This belief, that of genetic destiny, is perhaps the most paralyzing collective hypnosis we have accepted. But in recent decades, a silent revolution has been occurring at the forefront of biology, a revolution that is dethroning the old king of determinism and returning our sovereignty over our own bodies. This revolution has a name: epigenetics. To understand the power of this word, we must break it down. The prefix epi comes from Greek and means above, beyond. Epigenetics is literally the science of control above the genes. It is the discovery that we are not our code. We are the readers of our code. It is the revelation that our genes are not a fixed script, but a vast and complex library. And we are the librarians. The DNA library and the ghost librarian. Imagine that your DNA, your 46 chromosomes, are a library of an inconceivable magnitude. On its shelves are not just a few thousand books, but millions. Each book is a gene. This library contains the blueprints for every possibility of your human existence. There are books on how to build a healthy and vibrant body, and books on how to manifest every known disease. There are books on creative genius, on athletic resilience, on longevity. And there are also books on depression, anxiety and fear. You have inherited the complete library. The old belief in genetic determinism was like saying that you could only read the few books your parents left open on the table. Epigenetics reveals the truth. You have the keys to the entire library and the power to decide which books to read. Your epigenome is the librarian. It is a system of ghost switches, of chemical marks that adhere to your DNA and tell your body which books should be read and which should remain closed on the shelf. These switches do not change the text of the books, your genes, but they do change their expression. Science has identified two main mechanisms through which this librarian operates. The first mechanism is DNA methylation. Imagine that a sticky note can be placed on each book, gene, that says "do not read." That is, in essence, what a methyl group does. When it adheres to a gene, it silences it. It prevents the cellular machinery from reading it and transcribing it. You can have the book of a disease, but if a methylation mark keeps it closed, it is as if it did not exist. The second mechanism is histone modification. Imagine that the long threads of your DNA are wound on spools, like thread on a bobbin. These spools are proteins called histones. If the DNA thread is wound too tightly around the spool, the book is closed and illegible. If the thread is loosened, the book opens and can be read by the cell. Epigenetic marks can order the histones to tighten or loosen, acting as a volume knob for the expression of your genes. This changes everything. It means that your genetics are not a sentence but a control panel, and every day at every instant you are pressing the switches on that panel. The signals from the field, who directs the librarian? If our epigenome is the librarian who decides which genes are read, the fundamental question is, who gives the orders to the librarian? The answer is the environment. Your epigenome is in a constant and dynamic dialogue with the world. Every signal it receives from your environment is an instruction on which books from the library it should take off the shelf. These signals are incredibly varied. Nutrition. The foods you eat are information. Certain nutrients, such as folate from leafy green vegetables, can add silencing marks to unwanted genes. Others, such as the polyphenols in berries, can activate longevity genes. Movement. Exercise sends a signal to your epigenome to activate genes for muscle repair and mitochondrial growth. Circadian rhythm. Exposure to light and dark tells your epigenome when to activate genes for daytime metabolism and when to activate those for nighttime repair. But the most powerful signal, the most constant, and the one that returns your sovereign power, is the signal that comes from your consciousness, Your thoughts, your beliefs, and your emotions are, perhaps, the most influential epigenetic programmers of all. Dr. Bruce Lipton, a pioneer in this field, calls it the biology of belief. Your perception of the environment is more important than the environment itself. When you perceive your world as a stressful and dangerous place, your brain releases stress hormones like cortisol. Cortisol is a chemical signal that travels throughout your body and tells your epigenome, "We are in survival mode." In response, the librarian takes the war books off the shelf. It activates genes for inflammation, for the fear response, and stores the peace books on the darkest shelves, the genes for regeneration, growth, and long-term immunity. When, on the other hand, you perceive your world from a state of love, gratitude, and security, your brain releases the chemistry of coherence. These signals tell your epigenome the environment is safe and prosperous, and the librarian obeys. It stores the war books and brings the peace books to light. It activates genes for DNA repair, longevity, the so-called sirtuin genes, and healing. You are not at the mercy of your genes. Your genes are at the mercy of your perception. You are the ghost in the machine. You are the consciousness that, through the lens of your perception, presses the ghost switches of your own biology. The workshop of the soul's epigeneticist. Integrated practices. The initiate in the mysteries of the eternal code does not lament his genetic inheritance. He does not resign himself to the blueprints that were handed to him. He rolls up his sleeves and enters the workshop. He knows that he is not a victim of his biology, but the epigeneticist of his own soul, the artist who, with the tools of his consciousness, can paint new and magnificent masterpieces on the canvas of his DNA. The work in this workshop is not one of brute force, but of a subtle and persistent re-education. It is the art of teaching your inner librarian to choose different books. The first practice, deconstructing the inherited library. Before you can choose new books, you must first become aware of the ones you have been reading on autopilot your whole life. You must perform an audit of your inherited library. The master epigeneticist takes his journal, which is not a book of complaints but a laboratory notebook, and he begins the brave work of the archaeology of his beliefs. The decree inventory. The initiate makes a list of the truths that were transmitted to him in his childhood about his health and his potential. He notes the phrases that were repeated in his family. In our family, everyone has a weak back. We have always been prone to allergies. People like us don't live long. He writes them down, not as facts, but as what they are. Hypnotic suggestions that his child's mind accepted unfiltered. The behavioral trail. Then the initiate observes how these beliefs have manifested in his behavior. Does he avoid certain sports because of the belief in his weak back? Does he accept allergies as an inevitable part of spring? His behavior has been validating the prophecy. Socratic questioning. Finally, the initiate subjects each of these beliefs to a relentless interrogation. He asks himself, is this an absolute and immutable truth or just a family story? Do I know anyone with the same inheritance who has transcended this limitation? What would happen if this belief were 100% false? Who would I be without this story? This deconstruction process does not change the genes, but it radically changes the perception of the genes. It takes away the old program's hypnotic power. It is the first act of liberation. The second practice, the orchestration of a new emotional symphony. The initiate knows that the most powerful signal he can send to his epigenome is the vibration of his emotions. He becomes the conductor of his neurochemical orchestra. His job is to learn to deliberately play the music of healing. The most powerful tool for this is the practice of heart coherence. The master epigeneticist dedicates 5 to 10 minutes each day to this tuning ritual. Anchoring in the heart. He sits in silence and brings his attention to the center of his chest, to the space of his heart. Coherent breathing. He begins to breathe a little more slowly and deeply than normal, inhaling through the nose for 5 seconds and exhaling through the nose for 5 seconds. This breathing rhythm, on its own, begins to calm the nervous system and organize the heart rate waves. Activation of regenerative emotion. While maintaining rhythmic breathing, he deliberately evokes a feeling of genuine gratitude, appreciation, or compassion. He doesn't just think about gratitude, he feels it. He remembers the face of a loved one, the beauty of a landscape, the feeling of an achievement. He bathes in that warm and expansive emotion. By doing this, he is not just feeling good. He is performing an act of biological engineering. He is changing the signal his heart sends to his brain and to every cell in his body. He is moving from the chaotic signal of stress to the coherent signal of security and regeneration. He is telling his epigenome, the environment is safe. You can turn off the war programs and activate the peace, growth, and repair programs. This practice, sustained over time, is like teaching your librarian to always keep the health books open on the reading table. The third practice, the epigenetic feast. The master understands that every bite of food is an instruction he gives to his DNA. He becomes a conscious eater, choosing foods not just for their taste, but for the information they transmit to his epigenome. Eat the silencers. The initiate incorporates into his diet foods rich in compounds that have been shown to promote healthy methylation, silencing unwanted genes. These include leafy green vegetables rich in folate, spinach, kale, and cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower. Eat the activators. He focuses on foods that activate longevity genes and resilience, such as the polyphenols in blueberries, the resveratrol in grapes, the sulforaphane in sprouted broccoli, and the catechins in green tea. Eat the information of the sun. He knows that vitamin D, synthesized through sensible sun exposure, is not just a vitamin. It is a hormone that regulates the expression of thousands of genes. He honors the sun as a fundamental epigenetic nutrient. The fourth practice, conscious cellular dialogue. Finally, the initiate knows that the power of his consciousness does not need an intermediary. He can speak directly with the intelligence of his body. He uses visualization and affirmation, not as a fantasy, but as an act of deliberate epigenetic programming. The librarian visualization. In his meditation, the master visualizes his vast DNA library. He sees himself walking through the aisles, locating the books of disease or aging. With a loving intention, he takes them off the shelf and gently closes them. Then he walks to the section of perfect health and unlimited vitality. He takes those books, opens them, and places them under a bright spotlight, visualizing how the cellular machinery begins to avidly read and transcribe their instructions. The decree to the epigenome. He uses his voice, the vibration of sound, to give a new command. He repeats affirmations that are, in essence, commands for his inner librarian. I am the master of my genetic expression. I consciously choose to activate the genes of health, vitality, and regeneration. Every cell in my body hears this truth and responds, expressing the master blueprint of my original perfection. I am awakening the eternal code of youth. And so it is. Your DNA is not your destiny. It is your potential. It is a library of infinite possibilities. And you, through your perception, your emotions, your nutrition, and your intention, are the sovereign librarian who decides which stories will be read aloud in the magnificent epic of your life. Chapter 5. The Rhythm of the Cosmos, the Power of the Circadian Cycle. You are not an isolated entity floating in a vacuum. You are an earthly being, a child of this planet. And for millions of years of your evolution, your biology has not developed by chance. It has been sculpted, tuned, and synchronized with the most powerful and predictable rhythm of all. The majestic and constant rotation of the Earth on its axis, the eternal dance between day and night. This 24-hour pulse, known as the circadian rhythm, is not a simple astronomical detail. It is the conductor of your biology. It is the great cosmic metronome to which each of the trillions of cells in your body desperately tries to synchronize its own tiny dance. Health, vitality, and rejuvenation are not possible without harmony, and the fundamental harmony, the one that precedes all others, is harmony with this primordial rhythm. To live in sync with the cycle of light and darkness is, perhaps, the most powerful and fundamental act of healing you can perform. The master clock, the sun in your brain. How does your body know what time it is? How does it know when it's time to be alert and when it's time to repair? It knows because in the center of your brain, in a small but incredibly powerful region of the hypothalamus, called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN, resides your master clock. This small group of about 20,000 neurons is the Big Ben of your biology. It not only keeps time, but also sends signals to virtually every other organ and system in your body, synchronizing their functions. Every organ, your liver, your pancreas, your gut, has its own peripheral clock. But all these minor clocks set their time based on the signal they receive from the master clock in the brain. When all the clocks are synchronized, your body is a symphony of efficiency. Digestion is activated at the optimal time to receive food. The production of growth hormones and cellular repair skyrockets at night. Your immune system is more vigilant at the right times. Your metabolism works perfectly. But if the master clock is out of sync, the result is chaos. It's like an orchestra where each musician plays at a different rhythm. Your body doesn't know if it's day or night. It starts releasing stress hormones in the middle of the night, interrupting your sleep. It tries to digest food when your digestive system should be resting. Inflammation flares up. Brain fog sets in. The perfect environment for disease and accelerated aging is created. So the most important question for our health is, how do we set our master clock? What is the signal it uses to synchronize with the universe? The answer is the most potent force in our solar system, light. The Dawn Protocol, light as a startup signal. The most crucial event of your day, from a circadian perspective, occurs in the first 30 to 60 minutes after you wake up. In this window of time, you have the opportunity to send the most potent signal possible to your master clock, a signal that will determine your energy, your mood, and the quality of your sleep for the next 24 hours. That signal is sunlight. The mechanism is astonishingly elegant. When sunlight, especially the light in the blue and violet spectrum that is dominant when the sun is low on the horizon, at dawn, enters your eyes, it hits specialized cells in your retina. These cells, called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, iPRGCs, are not for image vision. Their sole function is to detect the presence and quality of light, and they are connected directly through neural wiring to your master clock in the suprachiasmatic nucleus. When this morning light signal reaches the SCN, it does two fundamental things that orchestrate your entire day. One, the activation of the cortisol peak. We have talked about cortisol as the stress hormone, but its function is much more nuanced. Cortisol, at the right time and in the right dose, is the hormone of alertness and action. And the most important cortisol peak of the day is designed to occur naturally between 30 and 45 minutes after waking up. This morning cortisol peak is your biological starter motor. It is the signal that tells every cell in your body, "Good morning, it's time to wake up, to mobilize glucose, to be alert, to focus the mind, and to prepare for activity." A person with a healthy morning cortisol peak feels awake, clear, and full of energy, ready to face the day. The most powerful signal that triggers this healthy peak is exposure to sunlight in the first hour of the morning. If you stay in a dark room after waking up, or if you only expose yourself to the dim, artificial light of your house, this signal never arrives with enough intensity. Your cortisol peak flattens or is delayed, and the result is that feeling of grogginess, of mental fog, of desperately needing several cups of coffee just to feel human. To the start of the sleep timer, the second and perhaps most paradoxical function of morning light is that it starts the timer for your nightly sleep. Your master clock, upon receiving the powerful signal of "it's daytime," calculates that approximately 14 to 16 hours later, it should start releasing the hormone of darkness and sleep, melatonin. This means that the key to deep restorative sleep at night begins the moment you wake up in the morning. If you don't give your brain that clear, powerful light signal at the start of the day, the melatonin timer never activates correctly. At night, your body doesn't know for sure that it's time to sleep. Melatonin release is weak and irregular, and the result is difficulty falling asleep, nocturnal awakenings, and poor quality sleep that doesn't allow for the cellular cleansing and repair that are vital for rejuvenation. The Dawn Protocol, the most important practice. The protocol for synchronizing your circadian rhythm is incredibly simple, it's free, and it is the most powerful intervention you can make for your health and energy. The mission: within 60 minutes of waking up, you must expose yourself to direct sunlight for 5 to 20 minutes depending on cloud cover. The rules: it must be outdoors. Looking through the window of your house or car is not enough. Glass filters out a large portion of the wavelengths and, above all, the intensity, measured in lux, of the light. Even on a very cloudy day, the light outside is orders of magnitude more powerful than that of a well-lit room. Without sunglasses. You need the photons to directly hit the cells of your retina. You don't have to look directly at the sun, and you shouldn't. Just look in the general direction of the sky. If your eyes are very sensitive, you can do this in a shady area, but always outdoors. Consistency is key. The master clock is calibrated by repetition. You must perform this practice every day at approximately the same time to firmly anchor your circadian rhythm. The initiate in the Eternal Code understands that this morning ritual is not just another task on his list. It is a sacred act. It is the act of saluting the sun, of synchronizing his small personal rhythm with the great rhythm of the cosmos. It is the moment he aligns his biology with the intelligence of life, the sanctity of darkness, turning off the world's noise. If morning light is the startup signal for your brain, darkness is the shutdown and repair signal. Our ancestors, after sunset, lived in almost total darkness, interrupted only by the warm, low-impact glow of a fire. Their brains were programmed by millions of years of evolution to interpret darkness as the unmistakable signal to initiate melatonin production and begin the profound processes of cellular repair and rejuvenation that only occur during sleep. But we have hacked the night. We have filled our world with a perpetual artificial twilight. The lights in our houses, the street lights, and above all the screens of our phones, tablets, and televisions emit a massive amount of light in the blue spectrum. And here is the problem. The same specialized cells in your retina that detect the blue light of dawn to wake up your brain just as effectively detect the blue light from your phone screen at 11 o'clock at night. And upon detecting it, they send a panic message to your master clock. Alert! The sun is still out, it's midday, it's not time to sleep. Suppress melatonin production. Looking at bright screens in the 2 or 3 hours before bed is the most effective act of sabotage you can commit against the quality of your sleep and your recovery. You are, literally, injecting caffeine into your eyes. You are stepping on the brake and the gas of your biology at the same time, creating a circadian confusion that prevents your body from entering the state of deep rest it needs to heal. The initiate in the Eternal Code understands that darkness is not simply the absence of light. It is a nutrient as essential for health as food or water, and for this reason, he cultivates the sanctity of darkness with the same care with which he practices exposure to morning light. The digital sunset protocol, the sanctuary of night. This protocol is designed to prepare your brain and body for deep, restorative sleep, optimizing the release of melatonin. The mission: approximately 90 to 120 minutes before your desired bedtime, begin your digital sunset. The rules: dim your environment. Lower the intensity of the lights in your house. The goal is to simulate a sunset. Use lamps with warm-toned bulbs, reddish or orange, instead of the bright white LED ceiling lights, which are rich in the blue spectrum. The idea is that as bedtime approaches, your visual environment should become progressively darker and warmer. Activate the blue filter on your screens. If you must use electronic devices during this period, it is crucial that you activate night mode, night shift, etc., which reduces the emission of blue light and gives the screen an amber tone. Also, lower the screen brightness as much as possible. Consider using blue light blocking glasses if you are especially sensitive. The golden rule, the ideal. The most powerful strategy is to create a screen-free sanctuary for the last 60 minutes before bed. This is your sacred time to disconnect from the digital world and connect with yourself. What to do instead? Read a physical book with a dim, warm reading light. Listen to an audiobook or relaxing music. Talk to your loved ones without the distraction of a screen between you. Take a warm bath or shower. The increase and subsequent decrease in body temperature helps induce sleep. Write in your journal. Process the events of the day and free your mind from worries. Gently stretch or perform a body scan meditation. This transition period is not a luxury. It is a biological necessity. It is the signal you give to your master clock that the day is over and that it is safe to initiate the repair protocols. The integrated practice: becoming the master of your rhythm. The initiate does not leave his circadian rhythm to chance. He becomes the conscious director of his own biological orchestra. The practice begins with the circadian audit. The master, for a week, records his patterns. He notes the time of his first exposure to sunlight, the amount of time he spends indoors, and the time he is exposed to the last light from a screen. By looking at the data, he becomes aware of the magnitude of his desynchronization. Then he commits to the circadian reset challenge. For 1 or 2 weeks, he strictly adheres to the 2 fundamental protocols: 10-20 minutes of morning sunlight and 0 screens in the last hour before bed. He notes in his journal the quality of his sleep and his energy levels. The improvement is so drastic and so evident that the practice ceases to be a discipline and becomes a joyful choice. The master knows that his energy is not a resource that is spent and must be refilled with stimulants. His energy is a rhythm that must be cultivated. By synchronizing his master clock with the great clock of the cosmos, he stops swimming against the current of his own biology and starts flowing with it. Your body is an instrument exquisitely tuned to the music of the sun and the moon. For too long we have tried to play it with a chaotic score under the artificial and flickering lights of our own arrogance. The result is the dissonance of disease and fatigue. Neuromastery, in its most fundamental act, is not a complex hack. It is the simple and profound act of returning to the rhythm of nature. It is turning off the noise, going outside, and allowing the sunlight, the oldest and wisest conductor of all, to retune your instrument. Chapter 6: The Quantum Breath, Breathing as Medicine. From the moment you are born until the instant you die, your breath is your most constant companion. The average adult breathes more than 20,000 times a day. It is an act so fundamental, so automatic, that we have relegated it to the back of our consciousness. We take it for granted, without realizing that in this simple act of inhaling and exhaling resides the most powerful key to self-healing, cellular rejuvenation, and the mastery of our own consciousness. We have been conditioned to see breathing as a simple mechanical process: the intake of oxygen to feed our cells, and the expulsion of carbon dioxide as waste. But this is as limited a view as saying that the sun is simply a hot ball of gas. The ancestral wisdom of all cultures understood a deeper truth. In Sanskrit, the word for breath is prana, which also means life force. In Chinese tradition, it is qi, the energy that animates all existence. For the ancient Greeks, it was pneuma, which meant both breath and spirit. All these traditions knew that when we breathe, we are not just inhaling air. We are inhaling the energy of the universe. The quantum breath is the understanding that each breath is an act of exchanging energy and information with the quantum field. With each inhalation, you take the formless energy of the universe and bring it into your being. With each exhalation, you release your own energetic signature back into the field. Breathing is the bridge between mind and matter, between spirit and body. And what makes this bridge so incredibly powerful is that breathing is the only autonomous system of the body that we can consciously control. You cannot order your heart to beat more slowly. You cannot order your stomach to digest faster. But you can, in this very instant, choose to breathe more slowly, more deeply, or more quickly. Breathing is the joystick, the remote control that nature has given you to pilot your own biology. It is direct access to the control panel of your autonomic nervous system. And by learning to use this controller, you stop being a victim of your internal states and become their master. The physiology of breath, the remote control of your biology. To understand how to use this power, we must first understand the mechanism. Breathing is not magic, it is sacred physiology. 1. The vagus nerve, the calm switch. The main mechanism through which breathing controls your state is the vagus nerve. It is the longest nerve in your autonomic nervous system, a superhighway of information that runs from your brain to your main organs, the heart, the lungs, the intestine. It is the commander-in-chief of your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, the antidote to stress. When we breathe shallowly and quickly, as we do when we are stressed, the vagus nerve is barely activated. We remain trapped in fight or flight mode. But when we breathe slowly, deeply, and diaphragmatically, especially when we lengthen the exhalation, something miraculous happens. The movement of the diaphragm physically stimulates the nerve endings of the vagus nerve. This stimulation sends an unmistakable signal to your brain that says, The danger has passed. It is safe to relax. In response, your brain orders a cascade of biochemical changes. It reduces cortisol production, decreases your heart rate, lowers your blood pressure, and activates cellular healing and repair processes. A single, slow, deep breath can literally change your state from an amygdala hijack to a state of centered calm in a matter of seconds. 2. The dance of oxygen and carbon dioxide. We have been indoctrinated with the simplistic idea that oxygen is good and carbon dioxide is bad. This has led to the mistaken belief that breathing deeply means gasping, trying to get as much air as possible into the lungs. This is a serious error. The key to optimal cellular health is not the amount of oxygen you inhale, but the efficiency with which your body delivers that oxygen to your cells. And here, carbon dioxide, CO2, is the forgotten hero of the story. The Bohr effect in physiology states that red blood cells only release their oxygen molecules in an environment that has a sufficient concentration of CO2. When we breathe excessively, chronic hyperventilation, which we do in a state of stress, we expel too much CO2. Paradoxically, even though our lungs are full of oxygen, our red blood cells hold on to it and do not deliver it to our tissues, our muscles, and, most importantly, our brain. This leads to fatigue, mental fog, and muscle tension. Slow nasal breathing does the opposite. It slightly increases CO2 levels in the blood, which signals the red blood cells to release their precious oxygen load exactly where it is needed. By breathing less, you actually oxygenate your body better. 3. The link with heart coherence. As we saw, the heart generates the most powerful electromagnetic field in the body, and the coherence of this field is a healing signal for every cell. The fastest and most direct way to create heart coherence is through rhythmic breathing. When you breathe chaotically, your heart rate pattern is irregular and incoherent. When you breathe smoothly and rhythmically, for example, inhaling for 5 seconds and exhaling for 5 seconds, your heart rate synchronizes with your breathing, creating a beautiful, ordered sinusoidal wave. This coherent signal is the music of healing, the vibration that tells your DNA to activate the eternal code of regeneration, the broken breath of the modern human. Understanding this power, it is tragic to observe the way the modern human breathes. We have developed a series of dysfunctional breathing patterns that keep us trapped in a chronic state of low-grade stress. The most common is shallow chest breathing. Observe your breathing right now. Does your abdomen move or just the top of your chest? Chest breathing is the breathing of fight or flight. It activates the accessory muscles of the neck and shoulders and sends a constant alarm signal to your nervous system. It is a breathing of panic. Another pattern is chronic mouth breathing. Our nose is a high-tech air filter designed to warm, humidify, and clean the air, as well as to produce nitric oxide, a molecule that sterilizes the air and dilates blood vessels. Breathing through the mouth bypasses this entire process. It's like drinking unfiltered water. It leads to worse oxygenation and a constant activation of the stress system. These broken breath patterns are not the cause of our stress. They are the reflection of our chaotic mental state. And at the same time, they create a feedback loop that perpetuates that same state. Our anxious thinking creates shallow breathing, and shallow breathing tells our brain that there is a reason to be anxious. To break this cycle, we must use the power of our consciousness. We must take command of the only system that allows us to do so. We must relearn how to breathe. The alchemical workshop of the breath integrated practices. The initiate in the mysteries of the body does not take his breath for granted. He understands that it is his most accessible and powerful tool for self-transformation. He needs nothing external. At any time and in any place, he can retreat to the silent workshop of his own breath and begin to reconfigure his biology and his consciousness. The practice is not about learning dozens of complex techniques. It is about mastering a few fundamental protocols that act as master keys for different states of being. The first practice, foundational breathing, return to origin. The master's first act is to unlearn the shallow, anxious breathing patterns that modern life has imposed on him, and to remember how to breathe the way nature designed it. His practice is that of diaphragmatic nasal breathing. The initiate lies down or sits in a relaxed position. He places one hand on his chest and the other on his abdomen. and he simply observes his breathing without changing it. Which hand moves more? For most, it is the hand on the chest. Now the conscious practice begins. He closes his mouth and begins to inhale and exhale gently and silently through his nose, and he directs his intention, his consciousness, to his abdomen. As he inhales, he allows his belly to gently expand outward, like a balloon. He feels the hand on his abdomen rise, while the one on his chest remains almost still. As he exhales, he allows the abdomen to gently contract inward. This is not forced breathing. It is deep, slow, and relaxed breathing. It is the way a sleeping baby breathes. It is the way we breathe when we are in a state of deep calm and security. The initiate practices this for 10 minutes every day. He does not do it to achieve anything. He does it to re-educate his nervous system, to teach it that this state of diaphragmatic calm is its new home, its default state. The second practice, the breath of coherence, the music of the heart. Once he masters the mechanics, the master uses breathing to compose the music of healing. He practices coherence breathing to tune his heart and brain, creating a symphony of well-being. His workshop is, again, stillness. But now he adds two elements, rhythm and feeling. He adopts a balanced breathing rhythm. One of the most powerful frequencies, studied by the HeartMath Institute, is approximately 5.5 seconds on the inhale and 5.5 seconds on the exhale. The initiate does not need a timer. He simply finds a slow, regular rhythm that feels comfortable. While maintaining this rhythm, he brings his attention to the center of his chest, to the space of his heart. And then he deliberately activates a feeling of genuine gratitude or appreciation. He doesn't just think about gratitude, he feels it. He remembers the face of a loved one, the beauty of a moment, the sensation of the sun on his skin. By combining rhythmic breathing with elevated emotion, the initiate becomes a biochemical conductor. His heart begins to beat in a coherent pattern, sending a signal of calm and harmony to every cell in his body. He is, literally, breathing the chemistry of healing. The third practice, the breath of fire, alchemical purification. The master not only uses breathing for calm, but also for activation and purification. He knows that sometimes to heal, it is necessary to light a fire that burns away impurities. For this, he uses a powerful technique, similar to those practiced by Tibetan monks and popularized in the West by Wim Hof. It is an act of intermittent, controlled hypoxia and hyperoxia. It is crucial to note that this practice must always be done in a safe environment, sitting or lying down, never near water. The initiate begins by performing a series of 30 to 40 deep and rapid breaths, inhaling through the nose or mouth, filling the belly and chest, and exhaling without force. The rhythm is continuous, like a bellows. This process of hyperventilation floods the body with oxygen and expels carbon dioxide. After the last exhalation, he empties his lungs and holds his breath with no air for as long as he can comfortably. In this state of hypoxia, the body activates deep survival and adaptation mechanisms, strengthening cells and reducing inflammation. When he feels the urge to breathe, he takes a big recovery inhalation and holds it for 15 seconds, feeling how the newly arrived oxygen floods every cell. He repeats this cycle 3 or 4 times. This practice is a deliberate, hormetic stress. It is a controlled challenge that forces the body to become stronger, more resilient, and more efficient in its use of oxygen. It is a fire that purifies the system from within. The fourth practice, box breathing, the warrior's focus. For moments of high pressure that require simultaneous calm and focus, the initiate uses the technique of elite warriors, such as the US Navy SEALs. It is box breathing. Its structure is one of perfect symmetry. Inhale through the nose, counting to 4. Hold the breath with lungs full, counting to 4. Exhale through the nose, counting to 4. Hold the breath with lungs empty, counting to 4. And he repeats the cycle. This square breathing has a unique neurological effect. It not only calms the nervous system through controlled exhalation, but also maintains a state of alertness and focus through the pauses. It is the perfect tool to find your center in the midst of a storm, to be the eye of the hurricane. Your breath is not a simple automatic act. It is your most powerful tool, your most immediate medicine, your most direct connection to the life force of the universe. It is the chisel with which you sculpt your nervous system, the needle with which you weave your emotional state, and the bridge that connects your individual consciousness with the energy of the cosmos. You don't have to wait for a special moment to meditate or to heal. Every breath is an opportunity. Every inhalation is an opportunity to receive life in its fullness. Every exhalation is an opportunity to release, with grace, everything that no longer serves you. Chapter 7. Emotional Alchemy, the Heart as a Brain. For centuries, we have lived under the tyranny of a great lie, a dogma so ingrained in our culture that we rarely dare to question it. The lie is that the mind, the thinking and logical brain, is the king of the castle. That our emotions are rebellious, irrational, and primitive subjects that must be controlled, suppressed, or at best, ignored by the monarch of reason. This belief has created a civilization of talking heads disconnected from their bodies, of beings who distrust their own inner wisdom and who seek all answers in cold analysis and external data. But the new science, the one that dares to look beyond dogma, is joining ancient wisdom to reveal a revolutionary truth, a truth that completely inverts the hierarchy of power within our being. The truth is that the true director of the orchestra of our biology, the true brain that governs our health and our perception, does not reside in our head. It resides in our chest. It is our heart. The hidden brain in your heart. This is not a poetic metaphor. It is a neurobiological fact. The field of neurocardiology has discovered that the human heart possesses its own complex intrinsic nervous system, a neural network so sophisticated that it has been dubbed the little brain of the heart. This cardiac brain contains more than 40,000 neurons and a complex network of neurotransmitters, proteins, and support cells. It thinks, feels, learns, and remembers independently of the cranial brain. In fact, the heart sends many more signals to the brain in the head than it receives from it. Communication is not from top to bottom. It is, predominantly, from bottom to top. Your heart is not a simple blood pump. It is an information processing center of astonishing intelligence. But its intelligence is not logical or verbal. Its intelligence is emotional and energetic. The inner sun, the heart's electromagnetic field. The power of the heart becomes even more evident when we examine its energetic signature. The HeartMath Institute, a pioneer in research on cardiac intelligence, has scientifically demonstrated that the heart generates the most potent and extensive electromagnetic field in the body. It is approximately 60 times greater in electrical amplitude and more than 5,000 times stronger in magnetic power than the field generated by the brain. This field is not confined within your body. It radiates from your heart in all directions, forming a toroidal energy field that extends several meters around you. You are not just inside your body. You are inhabiting an energy field that you yourself generate, and the source of that field is your heart. The most important thing of all is that the quality of this field, the information it transmits, changes drastically with each of your emotions. When you experience contraction emotions, such as frustration, anger, anxiety, or fear, your heart rate becomes erratic, irregular, and chaotic. The electromagnetic field you emit is incoherent. It is like a radio station that transmits pure static, a noisy and disordered signal. When, on the other hand, you experience expansion emotions, such as appreciation, gratitude, compassion, love, your heart rate becomes smooth, ordered, and harmonious, like a perfect sine wave. The electromagnetic field you emit is coherent. It is a clear, powerful, and perfectly tuned radio signal. This signal, coherent or incoherent, is the most fundamental communication you send to each of the trillions of cells in your body. Before any stress hormone reaches its destination, before any neurotransmitter crosses a synapse, every cell in your being has already received the instant report about your emotional state through the universal language of the electromagnetic field. Coherence and incoherence, the music of health and disease. Imagine that your body is an orchestra of trillions of cellular musicians. Your heart's field is the conductor. When the conductor, your heart, emits an incoherent signal of stress and fear, it is as if it were conducting the orchestra with violent, erratic spasms. Each cellular musician receives this chaotic signal. The result is biological dissonance, Systems become unsynchronized. The immune system gets confused, sometimes attacking itself. Repair processes stop. The entire body enters a state of alarm and disorder. This is the music of disease. When the conductor, your heart, emits a coherent signal of love and gratitude, it is as if it were conducting with a smooth, harmonious, and predictable rhythm. Each cellular musician receives this clear signal of security and order. Systems become synchronized. The immune system functions with optimal precision. Repair and regeneration processes are activated. The entire body enters a state of biological symphony. This is the music of healing. The state of your heart is the state of your health. Emotional alchemy is therefore not an optional wellness practice. It is the most important act of biological engineering you can perform. It is the art of consciously learning to conduct the symphony of your own being. The principle of emotional transmutation. The initiate in the Eternal Code understands that emotions are not good or bad. They are simply energy. Energy in motion, and energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transmuted. Fighting a negative emotion like fear is a fundamental mistake. It's like trying to stop a wave with your hands. You only get hit harder. Resistance to an emotion is what keeps it trapped in your system. Emotional alchemy is not an act of suppression, but of transformation. The alchemist does not try to eliminate the energy of fear. He takes that same raw energy and refines it, raises it on the vibrational scale until it transmutes into the energy of courage. He does not try to eradicate anger. He takes its fire and channels it to become the energy of passionate action. And the tool for this transmutation is the combination of breath and heart focus. Breath creates the space, and heart focus changes the frequency. The master knows that he doesn't have to wait for the external world to change to feel good. He can at any time retreat to the workshop of his own heart and, with intention and practice, deliberately change his energetic signature, thus changing the signal he sends to his cells and to his reality. The alchemical workshop of the heart. Integrated practices. The initiate in the Eternal Code understands that he is not a machine that is running out of battery. He is a sun whose flame has been weakened by neglect. His job is not to seek external sources of energy, but to stoke the fire of his own cellular core. The first practice, the cellular feast. The master of vitality eats with a conscious intention. He knows that every bite is an instruction he gives to his mitochondria. His practice is not a restrictive diet, but a feast of nourishing information. The second practice, the solar ritual. The master honors his ancestral connection to the sun. He understands that light is not just something you see, but something you eat. The third practice, the hormetic dance. The initiate knows that comfort is the enemy of vitality. He embraces controlled stress as his main ally to forge biological resilience. The fourth practice, breath as liquid fire. Finally, the master of energy masters the art of breathing. He knows that oxygen is the final element that ignites the flame in his mitochondrial furnaces. Your body is not a machine that wears out over time. It is a dynamic garden, an ecosystem of billions of living beings. And you are the gardener. The quality of your energy, the vitality of your being, is not a gift of chance. It is the direct result of the quality of the environment you create for your mitochondria. By feeding them with the right fuel, by bathing them in natural light, by challenging them with hormetic stress, and by nurturing them with conscious breath, you stop being a victim of fatigue. You become the guardian of your own fire. You reclaim your birthright to unlimited energy and vitality. You have understood the master blueprint, the DNA. You have learned to purify the medium that transmits it, the water. You have learned a new why powerful truth about the verdadera fuente de tu energía vital, tus mitochondrias. And now, you have learned to master the most fundamental de tus herramientas para sanar, the alchemy of emotions. In the next chapter, we will return to the rhythm, this time with a new mastery. Continued, the alchemical workshop of the heart. The fifth practice, the coherence breath, the music of the heart. One of the most powerful and direct ways to practice emotional alchemy is through heart coherence. This is not just a breathing technique, it is a way to intentionally change the electromagnetic signal of your heart. The master's practice is to pause several times a day. He brings his attention to the center of his chest. He begins to breathe slowly and rhythmically, for example, inhaling for 5 seconds and exhaling for 5 seconds. While maintaining this breath, he deliberately evokes a feeling of gratitude or appreciation. He feels the warmth and expansion in his chest. This act sends a coherent signal to every cell in his body, instructing it to operate in harmony, activating repair and regeneration. This is the art of consciously directing the music of your biology. The sixth practice, the emotional transmutation protocol. When a negative emotion arises, the master does not fight it. He transmutes its energy. He uses the breath as a tool. He breathes deeply into the emotion, a process of conscious acceptance. And then, on the exhalation, he deliberately releases it. He visualizes the energy of anger transforming into a purposeful fire for action. He visualizes the energy of fear transforming into the grounded energy of courage. He knows that he is not a victim of his emotions, but a conscious alchemist who can transform lead into gold. Chapter 8. The Cellular Feast, Nutrition as Information. In our modern culture, we have developed a deeply dysfunctional relationship with nutrition. We see it from two extremes, both equally limiting. On one hand, there is the purely mechanistic view. Food is fuel, a collection of calories, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates that we put into the machine to keep it running. On the other hand, there is the hedonistic view. Food is pleasure, it is entertainment, it is emotional comfort. Both perspectives, while they contain a part of the truth, ignore the deepest and most sacred function of nutrition. Food is not just fuel, and it is not just pleasure. Food is information. Every bite you take, every molecule you ingest is a message. It is an instruction you send to your trillions of cells. It is a code that your epigenome reads to decide which genes to activate and which to silence. It is the raw material with which your microbiota builds the neurotransmitters that define your mood. Nutrition, from the perspective of the eternal code, is not a matter of counting calories. It is the art of cellular communication. Eating is not an act of filling up. It is an act of programming. The question the initiate asks is not, how many calories does this have, but what information am I giving my body with this food? To become a conscious programmer of your biology, you must first understand the language. You must learn to differentiate between the foods that speak the language of chaos and the foods that speak the language of coherence. The language of chaos, the inflammation diet. Much of what our society considers normal food is, in reality, a code of disinformation for our cells. It is a language that generates inflammation, oxidative stress, and confusion in our system. There are three main dialects in this language of chaos. 1. Refined sugar, the scream of stress. Processed sugar in its countless forms, high fructose corn syrup, sucrose, dextrose, is perhaps the most disruptive signal we can send to our biology. Our body evolved to find sugar sporadically and in its natural form, packaged with fiber and nutrients as in fruit. The massive and concentrated dose of sugar from processed foods is a shock to the system. It causes a spike in blood sugar, which forces the pancreas to release a huge amount of insulin. This constant cycle of insulin spikes and drops generates insulin resistance, the prelude to type 2 diabetes and one of the main causes of chronic inflammation in the body. At a cellular level, excess sugar binds to proteins in a process called glycation, creating damaging molecules called advanced glycation end products, AGEs, which literally oxidize and harden our tissues from the skin, causing wrinkles, to the arteries. Eating refined sugar is sending your cells a message of accelerated aging. 2. Industrial fats, the false structure. The membranes of your cells, the brains of each cell, are made of fat. The quality of these membranes determines their fluidity, their ability to communicate, and to allow nutrients in and waste out. The modern diet is flooded with industrial fats and processed vegetable oils, sunflower, corn, soy, canola. These oils are rich in omega-6 fatty acids, which in excess are highly pro-inflammatory. But what is worse, they are often oxidized by high-temperature processing. When you build your cell membranes with these broken fats, it's like building the wall of a house with defective, brittle bricks. The membranes become rigid, dysfunctional. cellular communication is interrupted. The message you send is one of fragility and structural disorder. 3. Artificial chemicals, the static in the signal. Ultra-processed foods are full of additives, preservatives, colorings, and artificial flavorings. Our body, in its wisdom of millions of years, does not recognize these synthetic molecules. For our immune system, they are invaders. By consuming these chemicals, you create a toxic load that your liver must process and that often triggers an immune response, generating more inflammation. It's like trying to tune a high-fidelity radio in the middle of an electrical storm. You're introducing a massive amount of static into your biological communication system. This diet of chaos, the standard Western diet, sends a constant message of threat and disorder to our eternal code, forcing it to activate programs of inflammation and survival rather than those of regeneration and rejuvenation. The language of coherence, the cellular feast. To reactivate the eternal code, we must change the language. We must start feeding our cells with information they recognize, with what speaks the language of life. 1. Sacred fats, the bricks of life. The first pillar of a rejuvenation diet is the incorporation of high-quality, healthy fats. Omega-3s. As we have already mentioned, omega-3 fatty acids, especially DHA and EPA, are nature's most potent anti-inflammatories and essential building blocks for your brain and cell membranes. The richest sources are cold water fatty fish, wild salmon, sardines, anchovies. Monounsaturated fats, extra virgin olive oil, avocado, and olives, are the basis of the Mediterranean diet associated with longevity. They protect the heart and reduce inflammation. Healthy saturated fats, fats like coconut oil and grass-fed butter, consumed in moderation, provide a stable source of energy and are vital for hormone production. These sacred fats send the message of structural integrity. 2. Clean proteins, the messengers of repair. Proteins break down into amino acids, which are the bricks with which your body repairs tissues and builds everything from muscles to neurotransmitters. The key is quality. Choose sources of clean proteins: wild-caught fish, grass-fed meat, free-range eggs, organic legumes. These sources not only provide essential amino acids, but they are free of the hormones and antibiotics often found in industrial livestock and which act as disruptors in your system. 3. Smart carbohydrates, the sustained energy. The initiate does not fear carbohydrates. He chooses the right ones. He avoids fast carbohydrates, sugars and refined flours that cause insulin spikes, and embraces slow, fiber-rich carbohydrates. These are found in vegetables, tubers, sweet potatoes, yucca, legumes, and whole grains in their least processed form. The fiber in these foods is crucial. It not only slows down sugar absorption, providing stable energy, but it is also the preferred food of your microbiota, your second brain. 4. The rainbow of polyphenols, the epigenetic regulators. The most sophisticated information you can give your genes comes from polyphenols. They are the compounds that give plants their vibrant colors, intense flavors, and aromas. They are not calories, they are instruction molecules. Curcumin from turmeric is a powerful anti-inflammatory. Resveratrol from red grapes activates longevity genes. Catechins from green tea protect the brain. Anthocyanins from blueberries improve memory. The initiate's rule is simple: eat the rainbow. Each color in the plant world represents a different family of these informational compounds. A plate full of vibrant colors, dark greens, deep reds, bright oranges, intense purples, is a feast of instructions for your cells to activate the code of vitality. 5. Fermented foods, the gardeners of your interior. To ensure the health of your microbiota, you must repopulate it with beneficial bacteria. Fermented foods are the oldest and most effective way to do this. Kefir, natural yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso are living foods, full of probiotics that act as wise gardeners, tending to the ecosystem of your gut and ensuring that the communication between your second brain and your first is clear and harmonious. The workshop of the nutritional alchemist integrated practices. The initiate in the eternal code does not follow diets. He cultivates a conscious relationship with food. He knows that every meal is an opportunity for healing, for cellular communication, and for the reactivation of his master blueprint. His kitchen is not a place of heavy work, but an alchemical laboratory. The first practice, the conscious eating ritual. The master understands that how he eats is as important as what he eats. He transforms the act of eating from an unconscious habit into a sacred ritual of connection. The coherence pause. Before each meal, the initiate pauses. He does not eat standing up or while looking at a screen. He sits down, he closes his eyes, and he takes 3 deep, slow breaths, activating his parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode. This simple act prepares his body to receive and assimilate nutrients optimally. The blessing of information. He looks at his plate, and instead of thinking about calories, he thinks about information. He sees the vibrant colors of the vegetables as epigenetic instructions. He sees the healthy fats as the bricks to build a brilliant brain. He sees the protein as the raw material for his hormones and neurotransmitters, and he feels a deep gratitude. He gives thanks to the earth, the sun, the rain, and all the hands that have made that feast possible. He knows that this emotion of gratitude, by the law of heart coherence, creates the perfect biochemical environment for perfect digestion and assimilation. Conscious chewing. He eats slowly. He chews each bite mindfully. Digestion does not begin in the stomach, it begins in the mouth. Chewing is not just a mechanical act, it is the first step of alchemy, where food mixes with saliva and begins to release its energy and information. The second practice, intelligent detoxification. The initiate knows that his body has incredibly sophisticated detoxification systems, mainly the liver and the lymphatic system. His job is not to force an aggressive detoxification, but to support these natural systems. The nightly fast. One of the most powerful practices is simply giving his digestive system a rest. He ensures he has a window of at least 12 to 14 hours each night between his last meal and his first meal of the next day. This fasting period allows the body to divert its energy from digestion to repair and cellular cleansing, a process we will explore in the next chapter. Herbal support. The master uses bitter herbs and foods, such as arugula, dandelion, artichoke, that gently stimulate the production of bile in the liver, helping it process and eliminate toxins more efficiently. Pure hydration. He understands that water is the main vehicle for detoxification. He drinks pure, high-quality water throughout the day, not just to hydrate, but to help his kidneys and lymphatic system rinse out metabolic waste. The third practice, intuitive listening to the body. Finally, the master epigeneticist transcends all external rules and diets. He has cultivated such a deep connection to the intelligence of his own body that he learns to listen to its direct signals. The food question. Before eating, the initiate does not just ask, "What do I feel like eating?" A question that often comes from the cravings of the ego or harmful microbes. He asks on a deeper level, "Body, what information do you need today to thrive?" The reaction journal. He pays exquisite attention to how he feels after each meal. He keeps a journal and notes. Did this food give me energy or leave me lethargic? Did it give me mental clarity or fog? Through this self-observation, he becomes his own nutritionist, discovering the foods that are medicine for his unique biology and those that are a subtle poison. Food is not your enemy. It is not a source of guilt or anxiety. It is the most intimate and tangible way that the universe nurtures you and communicates with you. It is the oldest and most powerful medicine. By becoming the alchemist of your own nutrition, you stop being a victim of cravings and conditioning. You reclaim your power to inform your cells, to instruct your genes, and to build, bite by bite, a body that is the radiant expression of the eternal code of vitality. Chapter 9, The Silence That Repairs. Now we must explore a paradoxical and often more powerful truth, that sometimes the deepest healing, the most radical rejuvenation, comes not from what you add, but from what you remove. We must enter the sanctuary of silence, into the wisdom of emptiness. Our modern culture suffers from a horror vacui, a fear of emptiness. We fear empty stomachs, hunger, empty schedules, boredom, and most of all, empty minds, silence. We live in a state of constant consumption and stimulation. We fill every moment with food, with information, with noise, believing that more is always better. But we have forgotten the fundamental law of creation. All that is new emerges from emptiness. The universe was born from the silent singularity that preceded the Big Bang. The masterpiece is born from the blank canvas. The symphony is born from the silence between the notes. Emptiness is not nothingness. It is the whole in a state of potential. It is the womb of creation. And for your body and mind to be able to be reborn, they must first have the space to do so. They must return periodically to the healing power of silence. This chapter explores the two most potent forms of sacred silence that you can give your biology: digestive silence through intermittent fasting and mental silence through meditation. Digestive silence, the magic of autophagy. Let's start with the body. Your biological system has two fundamental and, to a large extent, opposing operating modes. The first mode is growth and storage. This is the anabolic state. It is activated when you eat. All of your body's energy is directed toward processing the food you have just ingested, absorbing nutrients, building new tissues, and storing excess energy. It is a state of doing, of building. The second mode is cleansing and repair. This is the catabolic state. It is activated when you are not eating, when you are in a state of fasting. When your body is not occupied with the constant task of digestion, it finally has the energy and receives the signal to turn its attention inward and begin the work of maintenance. It is a state of being, of repairing. The problem with modern life is that, by eating constantly from the moment we wake up until we go to bed, we keep our body trapped almost permanently in growth mode. We never give it the time or space to activate its deep and miraculous self-repair programs. The most important of these programs, a discovery that earned scientist Yoshinori Ohsumi the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2016, is autophagy. The word autophagy comes from Greek and literally means self-eating. And it is exactly that. It is the most sophisticated recycling and quality control system in the universe. Imagine that each of your cells is a bustling city. Over time, due to metabolic stress and environmental damage, some parts of the city begin to deteriorate. Mitochondria, the power plants, become old and inefficient, producing more toxic smoke, free radicals, than energy. Proteins fold incorrectly, accumulating like garbage in the streets. When you activate autophagy through fasting, it's as if you've started the most advanced cleaning and recycling service in the city. Specialized cellular teams, called autophagosomes, begin to patrol the cell. They actively search for all these old, damaged, or dysfunctional parts. They wrap them up, transport them to the cell's recycling centers, the lysosomes, and break them down into their basic components: amino acids, fatty acids. And here comes the magic. These recycled materials are not discarded. They are used as raw material to build new mitochondria, new proteins, and new cell membranes. It is the ultimate sustainable renewal program. Autophagy is also your body's way of eliminating zombie cells, or senescent cells. These are old cells that have lost the ability to divide, but refuse to die. They linger in your tissues, secreting a cocktail of inflammatory molecules that damage the healthy cells around them and are one of the main drivers of the aging process and age-related diseases. Autophagy is the program that identifies these zombies and removes them from the system. The benefits of regularly activating this process are immense. It reduces inflammation at a systemic level. It improves mitochondrial health and increases energy production. It protects brain health by clearing protein plaques like beta-amyloid, associated with diseases like Alzheimer's. It strengthens the immune system. It activates longevity pathways and has a powerful anti-aging effect. And what is the most powerful switch to activate autophagy? Intermittent fasting. By creating a daily window without calorie intake, you are giving your body the unmistakable signal and the necessary time to switch from building mode to cleansing mode. Digestive silence is not a form of deprivation, it is the gift of regeneration. Mental silence, the autophagy of consciousness. You have discovered the power of digestive silence, the art of giving your body the space for its own miraculous self-cleansing. But this physical purification, as powerful as it may be, is only half of the equation. Because the greatest generator of toxic waste in our system is not food but our own thoughts, we must learn to fast from the mind. we must enter mental silence. The untrained mind is a machine of incessant noise. It is what Eastern traditions call the monkey mind, jumping from one branch to another, from one worry to the next, from a memory of the past to an anxiety about the future. This constant chatter is not harmless. It is a massive leakage of vital energy, and every negative thought, every worry loop, is a stress signal that releases cortisol and creates subtle inflammation in our brain and body. Just as autophagy cleans up the physical waste in our cells, meditation is the process of mental autophagy. It is the spring cleaning of consciousness. When we sit in silence, not to stop thoughts, but to observe them without judgment, we activate a purification process. Consciousness, the silent witness, acts as the mind's autophagosome. It illuminates the old dysfunctional thought patterns, toxic memories, and repressed emotions. And the light of this accepting, non-judgmental consciousness, like the cellular lysosome, begins to dissolve these patterns. The energy that was trapped in them is released and recycled, becoming available for a more creative and conscious use. Science has begun to map this process. Mindfulness meditation has been shown to strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the wise CEO of our brain, giving us more control over our impulsive reactions. At the same time, it reduces the size and reactivity of the amygdala, our fear center. It also calms the default mode network, the brain circuit responsible for rumination and mental chatter. Meditation is not an act of escapism. It is the most pragmatic act of inner engineering that exists. It is the regular maintenance that ensures your mental operating system functions with clarity, efficiency, and peace. The workshop of the silent sage integrated practices. The initiate in the eternal code understands that the practice of mental silence is radically simple. It is not about doing anything. It is the art of non-doing. It is letting go. His main practice is the ritual of daily silence. Every day, the master creates a sanctuary of time and space, even if it's only 15 minutes where his only job is to sit and be. He does not seek mystical experiences. He does not try to achieve enlightenment. He simply sits. He observes his breath. And when thoughts arise, as they inevitably will, he does not fight them. He doesn't get frustrated. He observes them with the same detached curiosity with which he would observe clouds crossing the sky. A thought about work. A childhood memory. And with each exhale, he gently lets them go, returning his attention to the anchor of his breath. Every time he performs this simple act of observing and letting go, he is performing an act of mental cleansing. He is allowing the autophagy of consciousness to dissolve the old programs. The sage often combines the two silences for a synergistic effect. He practices his digestive fast, and during that window of time when his body is not spending energy on digestion, he also practices periods of mental fasting, meditation. He knows that by giving his body and mind a simultaneous rest from external processing, he is creating the optimal conditions for deep regeneration and rejuvenation at all levels. The vow of conscious silence. The initiate understands that silence is not just for the meditation cushion. He integrates it into his life. He practices silent listening. In a conversation, instead of planning his next response, he simply listens with total presence. He practices digital silence. He gives himself periods of time without the constant stimulation of screens. He practices silence in nature. He walks in a forest or by the sea, not to think, but to allow the silence of nature to calm the noise of his mind. Silence is not an absence. It is a presence. It is the presence of pure consciousness, the blank canvas on which all creation is painted. Digestive fasting cleans the hardware of your body. Mental fasting cleans the software of your mind. Together, they are the most powerful reset protocol that exists, a way to hit the restart button on your biology and return it to its original state of balance and vitality. Chapter 10. Collective Consciousness and Healing. We have embarked on a journey into the inner universe. You have explored the sacred geometry of your DNA, the liquid consciousness of the water in your body, the fire of your mitochondria, and the power of your consciousness to flip the switches of your epigenome. You have learned to tune your biology to the rhythm of the cosmos, to nourish it with coherent information, and to purify it with the power of silence. The journey so far has been to a large extent a solitary one, a pilgrimage to the center of your own being. But now, in this final stage of mastery, we must take a step beyond the I. We must turn our gaze from the microcosm of the individual cell to the macrocosm of interconnection. We must explore one of the most forgotten truths by our individualistic culture, but most fundamental to our health and longevity. We do not heal alone. Welcome to the 10th and final chapter of our exploration, where we will discover that the most powerful epigenetic signals of all do not come from food or the sun, but from the heart of others. Welcome to collective consciousness and healing. The illusion of the isolated self. We have been conditioned by a biological paradigm that sees the individual as an autonomous survival unit, a selfish machine that competes for resources. But this view is a profound misinterpretation of nature. As we saw in the chapter on the symbiosis of the forest, the strongest tree does not grow alone. It grows in an interconnected network. In the same way, the human being did not evolve to be a lonely wolf. We evolved to be a tribal creature. Our survival, our well-being, and our resilience have always depended, and continue to depend, on the quality of our social bonds. Modern science is validating this ancestral truth in astonishing ways. It has been discovered that chronic loneliness and social isolation are a risk factor for premature mortality, as potent as, or even more so than, smoking 15 cigarettes a day, obesity, or a sedentary lifestyle. Lack of connection is not just an emotional wound, it is a physical disease. Why? Because your nervous system, your primitive brain, is programmed to interpret isolation as the greatest of threats. For our ancestor on the savannah, being cast out of the tribe was an almost certain death sentence. Being alone meant being vulnerable to predators, and this ancestral program continues to run within us. When you feel lonely, disconnected, or in conflict with your tribe, your amygdala, your threat detector, panics, and it chronically activates the stress response. Your body is flooded with cortisol. And as we already know, this constant flood weakens your immune system, increases inflammation, and deactivates genes for repair and longevity. Loneliness is literally an epigenetic signal that tells your body, we are in danger. Prepare for war, not for healing. The biology of connection. Love as medicine. On the contrary, when you feel safe, connected, loved, and part of a supportive community, your biology responds in a radically different way. Positive and nurturing relationships are the most powerful antidote to stress. When you experience a genuine connection with another person, a hug, an empathetic conversation, an act of kindness, your brain releases a cascade of healing neurochemicals. The most important of these is oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone or love hormone. Oxytocin is the direct antidote to cortisol. It calms the nervous system, reduces blood pressure, decreases anxiety, and has a potent cardioprotective effect. Positive relationships also increase the production of serotonin, our neurotransmitter of well-being, and endorphins, our natural pain relievers. This chemical cocktail of connection is an epigenetic signal that tells your inner librarian, the environment is safe, the tribe supports us, we can turn off the war programs and activate the peace, growth, and regeneration programs. Research on blue zones, the regions of the world where people live longer and with better health, such as Okinawa in Japan or Sardinia in Italy, has discovered that, beyond diet or exercise, the most powerful common factor in their longevity is their strong community and family ties. They live in closely knit social networks, where the elderly are honored, families support each other, and there is a deep sense of belonging. Their community is their most important medicine. The heart as a collective antenna. This connection is not just psychological and biochemical, it is energetic. As we saw in the chapter on emotional alchemy, your heart emits a powerful electromagnetic field that radiates around you. When two or more people enter a state of heart coherence, of mutual appreciation or compassion, their energy fields do not just touch, they intertwine, they synchronize, they create a collective resonance field, a group heart, that is much more powerful than the sum of its parts. Entering this field of shared coherence is one of the most healing experiences a human being can have. It is the feeling of unity that we feel at an inspiring concert, in a sacred ceremony, or in a moment of deep connection with a loved one. In this field, the information of healing not only flows within you, it flows between you. The coherent energy of one heart can, literally, help regulate and harmonize the incoherent energy of another. This is the scientific foundation of what we call distance healing, or the power of group prayer. It is not a miracle, it is the physics of collective consciousness. Purpose as a genetic switch. Beyond community, there is another transpersonal force that acts as a powerful epigenetic programmer: purpose. Having a clear sense of purpose, a reason to get up in the morning that is bigger than your own survival or pleasure, is one of the most potent signals of vitality you can send to your biology. Studies on longevity have shown that people with a strong sense of purpose, what Okinawans call ikigai, live longer, have fewer heart diseases, and a lower risk of developing Alzheimer's. Why? Because purpose gives your life direction and meaning. It transforms bad stress, distress, which is chaotic and meaningless, into good stress, eustress, which is the focused challenge that makes us grow. When you face an obstacle in service of a greater purpose, your brain does not interpret it as an existential threat, but as a challenge to be overcome. The biochemical response is different. Instead of a paralyzing flood of cortisol, a mix of dopamine, motivation, and adrenaline energy is released, which propels you to action. A clear purpose is like the North Star for your biological system. It gives your trillions of cells a unified reason to work together in the same direction. It turns on the genes of resilience, vitality, and longevity. Healing, therefore, is not a journey taken in a vacuum. It is inextricably linked to the quality of our connection to others and to our sense of contribution to the world. The workshop of the collective heart, integrated practices. The initiate in the mysteries of the eternal code understands that his laboratory does not end at the boundaries of his own skin. His healing and rejuvenation are intrinsically linked to the quality of the energy field in which he lives. Therefore, he becomes a conscious gardener not only of his inner garden, but also of the social ecosystem that surrounds him. The first practice, the audit of your social ecosystem. The first step is an honest evaluation. You must become aware of the quality of the relational information you are receiving daily. The connection inventory. Take your journal. Make a list of the 5 to 10 people you spend the most time with. The energetic barometer. Now, for each person on the list, ask yourself this question with radical honesty. After spending time with this person, how do I feel energetically? Do I feel uplifted, inspired, and more energetic, a nurturing relationship? Or do I feel drained, heavy, anxious, or negative, a toxic relationship? Be honest. The field analysis. Look at your list. What is the overall balance of your social ecosystem? Are you surrounded by relationships that send your cells signals of security and coherence, or by relationships that constantly activate your stress response? This audit is not to judge others. It is to become aware of the energy field in which you are immersed. You cannot cultivate a garden of orchids in a toxic swamp. The second practice, the conscious healing of the network. Once you are aware of your ecosystem, you can start to act as a wise gardener. Nurture the living connections. Identify the relationships that uplift you, and make the conscious decision to invest more time and energy in them. Call that friend who always makes you laugh. Schedule a dinner with that person who inspires you. Connection is a muscle that is strengthened with use. Prune the dead branches. This is the most difficult step. If you have identified a relationship that is consistently toxic and draining, and you have tried to heal it without success, perhaps the most loving action for both you and the other is to create a healthy distance. Pruning a dead branch allows the tree to direct its vital energy toward the branches that are alive and growing. The third practice, the archaeology of purpose, the ikigai. Purpose is not a grandiose goal you must find. It is a truth you must unearth. This exercise, inspired by the Japanese concept of ikigai, will help you find the intersection where your purpose resides. Take your journal and create 4 sections. What you love. Make a list of the activities that make you lose track of time, the things you would do even if you weren't paid. What you are good at. Make a list of your natural talents and skills, the things that others tell you you are good at. What the world needs. Look around you with the eyes of a healer. What problems, what pains, what needs do you see in your community or in the world that you would like to help solve? What you can be paid for. In what way could you combine the 3 previous lists into a service or product for which people would be willing to exchange energy, money? At the point where these 4 circles overlap, in that sacred intersection lies your Ikigai. That is the purpose that, when you embody it, sends your DNA the most powerful signal of vitality and longevity. It is not just a job, it is the reason for your being. The 4th practice. The active anonymous service is the antidote to the ego, which is often the source of our stress and our feeling of isolation. Commit to performing once a week a small act of anonymous service, something that benefits another human being or your community without anyone knowing it was you. It can be leaving an extra large tip for a waiter. It can be picking up trash in a park. It can be anonymously sending a useful resource to someone you know needs it. This act takes you out of the center of your own drama. It connects you with the field of collective consciousness, and it allows you to experience the pure joy of giving without the contamination of the ego's need for recognition. It is a practice of humility that aligns you with the energy of the universe. Your body is not an isolated machine. It is an instrument of exquisite sensitivity, which is constantly listening to the music of your social environment and the song of your own purpose. Healing and rejuvenation are not a journey taken in solitude. They are a symphony played in community. By cultivating relationships that nurture you, by pruning those that poison you, and by aligning your daily actions with a purpose that is bigger than yourself, you are sending every cell in your body the most powerful signal of all. You are telling them, I am safe, I am connected, my life has meaning, it's time to prosper. You have completed the journey through the 10 great secrets of the eternal code. You have learned to tune your being to the geometry of the cosmos, to the flow of life, to the rhythm of nature, and to the heart of humanity. Now, only one thing remains: to integrate this wisdom and live it. We have learned to speak to our DNA with the vibration of our intention. We have learned to program the water of our being with the frequency of coherence. We have learned to ignite the suns of our mitochondria with the gifts of nature. We have reclaimed our power as the epigeneticists of our own lives, using light, breath, emotion, nutrition, silence, and community as our sacred tools to reactivate the wisdom that lies dormant within us. The fundamental truth, the one you must carry with you from today on, is this: the body is not a machine destined to fail. It is a self-healing garden, a living temple of astonishing intelligence. And youth and vitality are not a lost treasure from the past. They are a potential that resides always present in the code of your being. You are no longer the prisoner of your body. You are its guardian. Your journey does not end with the end of these words. It is now that your true life as a conscious guardian begins. Your practice from today on is reduced to a single question that you will ask yourself with every choice in every moment. Does this action, this thought, this food honor and activate the eternal code within me, or does it silence it? Every bite, every breath, every thought of love is an opportunity to remember, to choose life, to embody the unlimited vitality that is your birthright. If this journey to the heart of your cells has resonated with you, and you want to continue exploring the wisdom for a full life, we invite you to join our community. Subscribe to our channel, Path of Knowledge, for more knowledge that empowers. Like this video as a declaration of your commitment to your own vitality. Share this code with someone who is ready to remember their own healing power. Thank you for your time, for your dedication, and for the brave decision to become the guardian of your own eternal code.